so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness which creates and animates all things. After years of exploring this awe-inspiring truth on this podcast, I'm super excited to announce that we are now going even deeper down the rabbit hole on the new late-night style consciousness-elevating talk show called Optimistic, which features none other than you, the listeners. Optimistic is taped out of the epic spaceship-esque 8-bedroom property we call the Mystic Manor that myself and the rest of the Optimistic crew now navigate reality from in Venice Beach, California. And you are invited to come experience a Mystic Manor immersion week with us. During your week-long stay, you'll enjoy unique workshops, chef-prepared meals, one-on-one time coaching and consulting with me, and even co-creating magic with me as a guest on both Optimistic and an episode of the Positive Head podcast. When I started this, my aim with these immersive retreats was to facilitate the ultimate spiritual upgrade and tune-up, so to speak, for our guests while providing them with one of the most memorable experiences of their lives. And I'm happy to say that as of this recording, every guest at the end of their trip so far has told me that they have had a profound and transformational experience at the Mystic Manor and that they definitely want to come back. All that being said, we only have a limited number of spots available between now and next July. And as of this recording, about half of those spots are already filled. So if there's any part of you that is screaming, yes, I want to come, I feel like I need to be there, go now and book a slot with me to discuss how we can put our heads together and make it happen at calendly.com/talkwithbrandon. I know for some people, there is also that little voice in their head saying, why not? I can't get off work. I can't afford it, and on and on and on. But, really, Henry Ford, I think, said it best. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And I'm confident that where there's a will, there's a way. And I'm personally committed to doing everything in my power, including discounts and payment plans, to get you here if it is something that truly feels like a huge yes for you energetically and like you're meant to be here. Once again, the link to book time to discuss with me is calendly.com/talkwithbrandon. That's spelled calendly.com/talkwithbrandon. All one word, of course. And book in some time and look forward to seeing you soon here at the Mystic Manor. All right, all you positive heads, on this week's Soul Share episode, I'm more excited than normal because I have my good friend Shaman Durek back with me on the show here. And for those of you who haven't caught Durek before, he comes from a long line of spirit shamans. He was originally on episode 802 of the podcast. He's also the brave guinea pig Soul Share guest on the forthcoming premiere episode of Optimistic. He's back with us on this show today to drop some more wisdom, fill us in on his new book, Spirit Hacking. Durek, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a blessing, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
You have been, likewise, man. Likewise. You've been on quite the whirlwind. I know. Last time I saw you to film the first episode of Optimistic, which I happened to be sitting yesterday during the editing session, and it looked so good. You had so many truth bombs, and I love everything about it. It's so exciting. And it was great for us because it was the very first episode. So we're working out the kinks, and you are the guinea pig that volunteers to, yes, Brandon, I'll support you. I'll come be on the first episode. And you roll in, to the Mystic Manor here and with your new partner, Princess Martha. And, I'm like catching up with you. I hadn't talked to you in a bit since, episode 802. That was a couple hundred episodes ago of this show. And, man, you have been on quite the whirlwind. It's like, oh yeah, this is the princess, and we're dealing with all kinds of drama in the press because of our relationship, and you've been on one since our original conversation. That's for sure.
Yes, definitely. All in good favor, though, for the benefit of humanity. But yes.
Yeah. Yes. Be careful what you wish for, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I already knew she was coming in my life because my mom told me that my mom is a very powerful oracle, and she told me she was coming into my life when I was about 15 years old. So all my friends, when she came in, they were like, "Oh my God, your mom was right again." And so I already knew she was coming in. Yeah.
What did your mom say exactly to like, how did that prediction go?
Oh, it was very simple. I was like, "Mom, do you think I'm ever going to fall in love and meet someone and have family, whatever?" And she's like, "Honey, you're going to marry the Princess of Norway in the future and be a part of the royal family." And I was like,
"Whoa!"
Okay.
It was that detailed.
Yeah,
it's like that.
My mom's no joke. She's very detailed. Like literally, I'd be in a car driving, and my phone rings, and it's my mom, and she's like, "Is the girl with the red hair sitting behind you right now?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, I made the window," and then she's like, "Can you put her on the phone, please? I have important information for her."
What? Wow.
Yeah, she's
so
like
and here's the thing, Durek, and I know when we were talking on on Optimistic, you're like, yeah, I'm really beyond needing any validation, but for me, like that kind of like detailed predictions, there, I've seen a lot of intuitives and people, over the years on this show, especially, and, some more accurate or detailed than others. But same with you, you definitely inherited some of Mom's, insight and fearlessness to go into that's a pretty detailed prediction. You're going to marry the Princess of Norway, in the future. It's like, okay, you're not really there's no vagueness there. And you did the same thing on episode 802 of the podcast. We were talking about my son's mother. And how I feel like I basically said to you somehow the idea of possession came up. And I said, yeah, I never really gave much credence to that whole idea until, I watched my son's mother, who she really seems like kind of like a possessed person now. And you went into detail at that moment. I remember when we were recording, you're like, oh, yeah, she is. Let me tap in. Yeah, it's a Levana spirit. You went into all this detail about this entity, Levana, and how that's who it is and how I can disempower her. And I'm thinking to myself, that's the first time I'd ever talked to you. I'm like, this guy's going hard in the paint. Like he's going for it. And I'm like, maybe so. I don't know if it's true, okay, dude, and then I get off the podcast with you and I'm hanging out with my son and I tell him like, oh, you should go listen to this conversation with this guy Durek. And he says, your mom is actually, it's this entity Levana. And my son looks at me and goes, Dad, that's the name of my new sister. That's what she named my new sister that was just born months before. And my jaw hit the floor. I'm like, whoa, Durek, one for the, I think I texted you right after, dude. And you're like, yeah, I know. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, your son is such a wonderful, wonderful being. And so are you. And yeah, I'm very happy that we're in each other's lives. And yeah, when you grow up in this way, it's actually funny because I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day who's a doctor, and he was just, he's been seeing me for 3 years, and he's been able to perceive things and experience things that he never thought he would ever experience. And I was explaining to him that, you live in this very material world that is based upon these material items and things around you, as well as the information that you've been given is derivative from the information that is based in each family or each person's household, or what their upbringing is and whatever. And they're very subjective individually based upon each person's understanding of the world. So what goes on in your house will be different from what goes on in my house. And so some people, we have to, there's all these beautiful, I call it the multiple of truths, right? And and everyone's truth is real onto them. And I'm not here to say that it's not, or this is wrong, or this is right. It's not about that in shamanism at all. We're very all inclusive. It's more about the understanding of how do you bring the invisible plane, right, which is the plane of magic, which is the plane where beings live, that, when you see people talk about unicorns and all these different beings, and I go, oh, those are real. They exist in this plane. There's all these different dimensions, and these things exist, but they're in the invisible plane because humans have forgotten about how to access that doorway, because they've got so caught up in like what's going on with their Instagram and what's going on with their with this world and material things, and how to build success and how to have a nice car you can drive and what kind of house you want to have, what kind of carpet you want to buy in your house, to the energy that lives beyond this realm, that's close to this realm. And we have easy access to it. But the three things that limit us from accessing it is fear, our belief system, and our awareness of our possibility of what exists. And so once, shamans, once we get people to dismantle those three things, it's just three things. All of a sudden the doorway opens and people are like, oh my God, fairies are real. Oh my God, this is crazy. What is this? Is this for real? Are there such things as dragons? Like all these different things that people think is just what they see in movies and fairy tales and, fantasies like Dark Crystal and all this kind of stuff. These dimensions really exist. And the reason why they're being shown in our films and our movies and televisions and stuff is because people are tapping into it and channeling this information, but they don't realize what they're channeling from is these real worlds that exist.
I have a great question for you pertaining to that, because I knew a guy, I met him years ago in a very interesting scenario where he was, interestingly enough, as you being a spirit shaman who doesn't use any plant medicine, as we'll talk about, and I think we talked about in our previous episode, this person was someone who had gone to the extreme of doing ayahuasca as a daily practice almost, but above and beyond that, which seemed like an imbalance. And this came after I got to know him for a long period of time. But my original meeting of him was with my dear friend Shane, and Shane had back trouble for years. And this guy was it was at an event, and this guy was doing healings on people, and he did one on my friend Shane, and he went from almost 20 years of back pain where he couldn't even carry his kids to it being 80% healed in 5 minutes. And so, Shane was very taken with this guy and, of course, got to be good friends with him. And then I got to meet him, vicariously through my friend Shane. And I was talking to him one day, and he was just a very fascinating individual, just a character, right? And I'm sitting there talking to him one day, and we're having a conversation about something. All of a sudden, he just zones off, and then he looks back at me and he goes, by the way, you're 5% Luke Skywalker. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah. He's like, all these movies, all these things, all these shows, it's all channel material, like you're saying. It's all come from, these are real, realities, and we are composite beings in some sense, and you are 5% the character Luke Skywalker with 3% of it activated or something like that. And of course, I just spit out my drink and kind of laughed or whatever at that time. And, but this is a person who I'd seen do some pretty fascinating things, and it's just very interesting. And I'd heard one other person kind of talk about that before, this idea that we're composite entities and, some of these characters that we see. What's funny about it is I can actually see and relate to myself in that character. If I say, oh, what is Luke Skywalker like? Oh, he's very boyish. He's wants to save the world. That's definitely energy that has resonated with me my whole life. So I'm curious what, that one, of course, made me laugh out loud, but that's what comes to mind when you talk about that. That's the other time I've heard someone sort of say something similar.
Right. And it's, and it's very, it's very important that people understand that, there's no special order for human beings that, one has psychic and this one is this and this one is that. We all have access to the spiritual buffet. The difference between it is how much are we willing to surrender those three things that I spoke to you about. Right. It's the fear, the belief systems, and the understanding of what's possible. Because see, when a human being isn't aware of what's possible, they usually gravitate to that which is most safe. And in shamanism, we always say that true power is found in the unknown. So the quality of humanity can only evolve when each person is willing to go outside of that constructed, very dynamic way that was built for them through their family, through their parents or guardians, and through their authority figures. And what I call stepping out of the matrix and take a glimpse that's what goes beyond the border. And once they are able to access that, like one of the techniques we use in shamanism is I'll put a bunch of rocks around someone and have them sit in the center. And then I'll ask my student, what do you see outside of the rocks? And if they tell me that, they see like a sky world or a world where there's trees and there's a volcano and there's a village, or they just see wherever they are, where I put the rocks, the one who sees beyond those rocks and sees a different world beyond those rocks tells me that they are willing to be defiant to the system. Then I ask them, now, what do you do now that you see that? If they say, I leave my body and venture off with my consciousness into that world, that shows me that they're trainable in shamanism. If they tell me I do nothing, I'm scared, I just stay where I am, that means that they've been already inflicted by the matrix. That means that the matrix has gotten in their programs in to a point which makes them already start activating fear as a reality that has basically kept them in a very, I can't move beyond these rocks situation. And so there are a lot of different tests. Like I had a guy here the other day, I wanted to check his power center. So I created a magnetic field and I pushed him with it to push him across the room. And if the person flies across the room, like where they get pushed backwards through my powers, it shows me that their core isn't strong. So what I do is I go, okay, your core is not strong because you were easily pushed. I used energy to push you over. And this has been done with the most powerful, wise monks and amazing masters of Tai Chi and martial arts and monks from centuries. And this also exists in all forms of shamanism. And so shamans will do certain tests to see how people respond. So, if we put them in a place that's surrounded by nature and we say, okay, we need you, we blindfold you, we take you here, we need you to find your way to us. We see how people use their navigation system. Do they always rely on the physical to move them through life? Do they rely on signs, signals, sounds? Do they rely on instincts, feelings, impressions, intuition? How do they navigate? Are they operating from their third eye? Do they allow themselves to see vision, meaning that they can actually say, I visualize like there's a rabbit in front of me and I follow the rabbit. I tell the rabbit, take me to the place where they are. And they follow the visualization of that rabbit to take them to where we are. So I look at how people utilize their powers and that gives me but everyone has access to this spiritual buffet, and the only thing is it's your willingness to want to have access and not be dependent upon a plant medicine to be the thing that actually gets you there. Because to me that's weak sauce. Like I'm like, okay, you did ayahuasca 7 times. You to me, you're showing up as week sauce to me. I mean, I love you. I know how powerful you are, but I'm also like, I'm that, that guy. I'm like, yeah, weak sauce, dude, weak sauce, because
I'm glad I stopped it. No, I'm glad I stopped at number 6.
Because I'm like, you're becoming codependent. And if you become codependent, then the matrix it still has you, because the matrix, you can only get out of the matrix and stay out of the matrix and be able to move in and through the matrix if you are learning how to be an independent being, which means you're accessing your powers that go beyond the, it's like that scene from Matrix where it says like, you believe that's the air you're breathing. That's why you breathe like that. It's the same thing.
Yep.
If you don't go into the unknown, you are always going to be programmed by what the Matrix wants you to see, feel, and experience. If you realize that your feelings and your experiences and what you see is being programmed to you by a system that built this system with slaves to hold slaves, then you are able to realize that in order for me to get out of this, I have to be so completely off the wall in my thinking. Yeah. And those are the people that I enjoy having conversations with, people who are willing to sit with me and talk about things that people would think they're crazy about, which is actually not crazy at all to me because I'm a shaman. So I'm like, oh, you are very wise. You are. I see that you learned how to navigate your thoughts beyond the construction that you are being put into. This fascinates me. I would like to spend more time with you and see how far you're willing to go. These are the things that inspire me.
Yeah. And, of course, I am so wide open to all of this information and have had so many fascinating people on the show and have had so many grounded, like magical experiences in my own life. But when it comes to like visions or those sorts of things, I've had like none, like meditating in experiencing some other realm or what have you. And it's like, that's one of the things that, I know everyone has access to it. And I think for me, part of it is I'm a little impatient. Like, it's like, I'd rather just get up and go do something, And so, whereas, some people, it comes really, really naturally. So I'm curious what you say to someone who has never had any sort of visions or who's very wide open and very, believes completely. Is it just a matter of of discipline, you think, for someone who hasn't really experienced some of this stuff?
So I wouldn't say it's a matter of discipline at all. I think that's also part of the Matrix. Discipline is an act of the Matrix repetition.
Yeah, I want to rebel against that. Yeah, I feel you. It's like, no, I don't want to anytime it comes to really this hardcore discipline that you've got to subscribe to, I'm just sort of I'm just so used to doing things my own way. It's challenging for me.
That's a great thing, right? But let's use can I use your experience as a way to give you instruction on what your question is? Okay.
Yes, please.
So you said several things. You said, I don't have this visual situation like other people. That's what I heard you say. Is that correct?
Uh-huh. I have not up to this point.
Yeah. Right. You have not had that. And then you also said that you also claimed an authority of proclamation in your wording. You said that you don't have so you were saying that that's not you. That's not what you do. Then you claimed another proclamation of emotional impulse, which is if it doesn't happen fast, I get bored. So you're already writing your script. Okay.
Right.
So, secondly, you said, but I'm wide open. So as a shaman, first of all, we would say you're not wide open. Okay. You may be open, but you're not wide open, because wide open means data open. Okay. Data open basically means that you're open to all of the willy ways that spirit chooses to interact with you. A person who's not open means that your ego is still clarifying, meaning supporting a belief of yours that you've asked it to support the narrative to. So first thing you have to do is dismantle your narrative from that. So the first thing you have to do is create energy. So let's just do a simple one, right? So what I want you to do is say ego. Say ego.
Ego.
I want you to dismantle the belief that I can't see.
Ego. I want you to dismantle the belief that I cannot see.
Good. Now, send that wave through my body now that it's dismantled.
Ego, send that wave through my body now that it is dismantled.
And tell me what you feel.
I definitely feel sort of tingly and noticing all the sensations. I instantly zeroed in on any and all sensations in my body.
Exactly. Now, say ego.
Ego.
I can see particles and energy frequencies.
I can see particles and energy frequencies.
I can see colors.
I can see colors.
And I can see into dimensions.
And I can see into dimensions.
I can also see imagery and visual imagery.
I can also see imagery and visual.
Imagery.
Imagery
Easily
and visual.
and effortlessly.
And visual imagery.
Easily and effortlessly.
Easily and effortlessly.
The moment I say so.
The moment I say so.
Ego, support this narrative.
Ego, support this narrative.
Good. Now look out in the room in front of you, wherever you are, and say, show me the energy particles.
Show me the energy particles.
What do you
Interesting.
see in front of you?
I'm instantly just everything is looking more vivid, almost like it looks like when you're on a psychedelic, like where you're just really noticing. My focus is just I'm not seeing anything dramatic, but it almost has like that sort of like psychedelic haze to it.
That's right.
That I really like.
Now watch. Say, show me the color frequencies in front of me.
Show me the color frequencies in front of me. Yeah, so there's like this cool yellow-green pattern in front of me, and it just is very vivid. Very much like...
Right. Good. You're doing good.
Cool.
Now,
I love it.
Now, how did we get to that space? Watch. Say, show me. Say, so close your eyes. Say, transport me to the ocean and give me visual spectrum.
Transport me to the ocean and give me visual spectrum.
What do you see?
So my mind instantly goes to like, creating what it would feel like and be like to be at the ocean. And so I'll get just moments of...
You got a
or
flash.
Whatever it is.
Flash?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just about to say. It'll just be like, it's like I'm sort of waiting for it, and then I'll get a moment where it feels like I'm there, but just for a very split second, and it's so quick. It's almost like I'm not. Yeah, right.
Right, and so you think your mind is actually generating this, but your mind is just basically it's just a conductor. Your spirit is actually the one taking you there. But the reason why you flash is because your spirit takes you there, and because it's not, you're not comfortable anchoring your whole entire spirit there. You flash back to your human body.
Interesting.
But the fact that you saw it is the beginning. So now say, take me there and hold me there longer, and give me visual spectrum.
Take me there and hold me there longer, and give me visual spectrum. So it's not as visual as I'd imagine, like a movie visual. It
can get there. Like it takes some time to build that muscle.
Yeah. Right. But it's like it is there in that way, but like 10%, right? And then also the like extended. I feel like the feeling was like 3 seconds as opposed to half a second the first time.
Like a blip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So as a shaman, what I would do is I would dismantle how comfortable you are being fully emerged in another dimension by taking apart all the things your ego has been supporting that has been blocking you. And then I'd ask your ego to support a new narrative. You see, a lot of times people like to make kill your ego, do all this stuff. In shamanism, we laugh about it because it's funny because you can't really exist on this plane without your ego.
Right. I have always thought that makes no sense.
Right, because your ego supports your narrative. So if you're a person who has money problems, that's because you have a belief system that your ego is supporting that is false, that is supporting something that keeps you not having money or not having good health or not having this or not having love or, so forth and so on. So in shamanism, the first thing we do is we definitely dismantle your ego from those beliefs. Because remember, I told you, it's 3 things that limit you from accessing all of these dimensional awarenesses. And that is fear, your belief system, and then your ability to know what's possible. So one of the key elements, like for instance, in Kabbalah or ancient mysticism, is the understanding of the ability to recognize something that's so making something possible become something that's impossible become possible. So the idea of possibility is a huge training that takes place in the knowledge of Kabbalah, the knowledge of ancient mysticism and Sufism, and all of these different beautiful, wonderful spiritual practices, right? And the same thing is with Buddhism. It's the same thing that Lord Siddhartha was about, which was about learning how to be able to understand duality and then get out of duality into complete all experience of everything without putting ideas and judgments on it. So in shamanism, we look at the things that you judge and we realize that those are the things that you don't have information for, so you don't feel safe. That means that you're afraid of the unknown. So why you were blipping there the first time was because you weren't telling your spirit to hold you there constant. And the reason why you're seeing it more like you're almost imagining it, like kind of like when people do imagination, you see it like that versus seeing it like you're on the beach and see the sand and see the water crashing and feel the wind on you and all this kind of stuff, is because you haven't got comfortable inviting all 4 of your spirits there with you. So you have a physical spirit, which is in this world, which can be transported to other worlds, but it needs 3 anchors. The 3 anchors are your emotional, your mental, and your spiritual. Your physical cannot travel to other dimensions unless the 3 anchors are already anchored in that dimension to give your physical ability to go there, which means you'll actually feel everything there. Like when I want to go to Egypt, I can easily go to Egypt and be completely there and walk the streets and look at what people are doing and see tourists and do all this stuff and then come back and be fully feeling the sun. I can feel the wind. I can hear the conversations. I see the faces. I can smell what the scents coming from the Grand Bazaar, everything, and stuff like that. Sometimes when people ask me to go, like I was at the royal family summer house, and was it the summer house that time? Or no, it was one of the royal family houses. And one of the princes asked me, "Oh yeah, I'm having a situation in my house." I said, "Hold on, I'll go there real quick." And he goes, "What?" And the whole family's watching me, and I closed my eyes and I went there and I was like, "Oh my God, your place is a mess. You got to clean up this stuff. And what is this broken lamp in the corner? And what is this kind? This is not a way for a prince to be living, and stuff like that." And he's like, "I know." My girlfriend and I are redecorating. We're trying to figure things out. And yeah, there's that. And he's like, "You see all that?" I go, "Yeah." I go, "I'm walking up the stairs right now. Okay, wait a second. Here's this, here's that." And I go, "Oh, look, you have a spirit in your house sitting over here in the living room," because I'm 100% there. So I can put my hand on the counter and feel the coldness of the counter. I can see the door. I open the door. I can walk through the door. I'm a spirit that can move and transverse through any type of situation. Right. So basically, this is how when people talk about like remote viewing, and you hear the government doing all of these very very secretive things. What they've been doing is they've been gathering knowledge from shamans and witches and mystics and so forth, and then getting them to train soldiers how to be able to navigate these types of information so they can use it to figure out what people are up to and what things are going on. There's a whole secret society that does that for the government. And that's how they know how to interact with certain situations that are taking place, which is why one of the things that I'm always talking about is really empowering people to come into their own shamanism and training people, getting them geared up so that they are aware that the system is not for you. This system is not for you. The medical world is not for you. The doctors, they are for you, but they're being run by pharmaceutical companies. So everything is the whole thing is about enslaving you and instilling fear in you, telling you what to listen to, what to feel when they watch the news, getting you glamored up by watching, what celebrity is wearing what and how and who and this. And it's the same. It's the same thing that I wrote in my book, which I call it Bread and Circuses, which is in my book, which is the whole thing that Caesar talked about, which is give them the arena, and give them cheap bread, and they'll never know what the Republic does. And that's basically how the system has been running itself, keeping us completely inundated so that we can't access our powers. We can't access our awareness. We can't access making us live in such survival that we spend more time working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. When do we have time to actually go out to nature and start learning how to commune with the nature spirits, or how to build energy balls, or how to be able to leave our body and do what I'm sharing with you right now? Go to the beach.
Right.
In your spirit body.
And what's wonderful about this is, you're talking about it being viewed as impossible. And what's funny is even encoded in that word impossible, I'm possible. It's, and this is so inspiring for me even to just do that one little exercise. And, you actually gave me a copy of the book when I saw you in person a few weeks ago, Spirit Hacking, which is your forthcoming book. It's about to be released, as of this recording. And, it's just packed with techniques like this, correct? To help everyone.
Yeah.
I remember you on Optimistic saying, my aim, my mission for coming here is to open the book for everyone to be able to have access to these gifts. And that is exciting.
Yeah, and I do it. The first book, Spirit Hacking, I give you tools to start building your awareness and your ability to access energies and communicate with spirits and be able to access these different dimensional planes that shamans we learn in our training. And then really give you a stronger sense of self, in the sense of your power, that you're not becoming a codependent being on planet Earth, that you become this very powerful, independent being. Basically, like one of my best friends said to me the other day, he goes, Durek, you're literally training Jedis for what the Star Wars saga that literally is real. You're actually really teaching people how to become
you
real
do have
Jedi.
Luke Skywalker. You do have Luke Skywalker on the line here,
Yeah, and I'm more very Obi-Wan. Personality.
Right.
And my girlfriend too. Like when me and my girlfriend, for instance, Princess Marta, we will go out in nature and we will open up stargates together and practice weaving energy cubes and transferring them to each other, and then experiencing the spirits that come through, and then talking to them and sharing and sitting down in a grove of grass and talking to the spirits that we've opened the doorway to and get information. And we start laughing and people are like, who are you guys talking to? We're like, we're fine, good, have a beautiful day. But the truth of the matter is we're actually talking to other beings that are there. Or, I'll be up in the morning and, I'll be practicing these body movements, and she sees that I'm actually standing in front of a spirit teacher who's teaching me new movements to access different energies in my body. So she's like, oh, I see you're training. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, good morning, honey, I love you. That's the life we live. We live in that world. That's how we live our life every single day. Even this morning, we woke up and she's like, we have to change our training schedule. So we need to get up in the morning and start practicing how to build more magnetic power energy fields so that we can learn how to move things and get things to move so we can eventually get to the place of telekinesis. So we're practicing all these different modalities. And what I love about her is that she's the first of the monarchy of the royal family, from her cousin, who's Prince Charles, and all the different, the king of Spain, and all her family members in her family and the royal family in Norway. She's the only one who came out and said, I speak to spirits. I have access to these different energies of healing. And then she used to literally, put on contacts and a wig and wear a hoodie and go out. And she opened up a spiritual center to train people on these arts and these techniques. And no one knew that she was the princess until finally someone figured it out. But the thing is, what I love about her is that she's like me. She's willing to go beyond that which people are telling her to do. You know, you're raised in the princess lifestyle. It's cutting ribbons and waving from carriages and being all buttoned up and walking in ceremonies. And, you know, this is your life. And she had a secret life that no one knew about, that she kept secret.
Wow.
And her nanny and the people in the palace were not telling the king and the queen. She was sneaking out and going and doing these things. So it would make sense that she's with me and you know, and we're a relationship, because all we do together is practice increasing our powers. Because like even my ancestor said, I'm at a 10% level, and I have a lot of intense powers that I already have access to. And so, but 10% is a lot in shamanism. I want to get to 80%, 30%, where I can start moving things and being able to you know, heal people's cells and bones just by touch. You know, so there's all of these things you have to keep raising up. So it's an everlasting journey, and everyone has access to it. I'm tired of people saying they used to be born of a tribe in order to be a shaman. You don't, because the tribe doesn't choose the shaman. The spirits do.
Right. And, you know, that's something that I've often you know, pondered, and seems like a natural part of where our evolution would go. To me, is this idea that, okay, we're living in, you know, the physical dimension as of now, and yet we're having this sort of awakening, this mass awakening that is happening, and people are coming online, people are remembering who and what they truly are, and tapping into more and more powers and synchronicities and magic in their life. I mean, I see it every day. And so to me, it seems like a natural progression, like, you know, and of course, it's one of the things that's been predicted is like we're merging with the next dimension over, in a sense. So you talk about pulling these powers down into physicality, or you ascending up. It's like meeting of the next dimension over, because you think about being on the other side, and you think of the idea of like, oh, you just travel instantly. You want to manifest something, it's instantly in front of you. You can, you know, it's the fully creative realm. And it's like we're pulling that in a process of pulling that into this dimension. And would you agree that's part of the journey? And as you're sort of, you know, one of the front runners on the world stage, stepping into a bigger position on the world stage, where people are seeing this, you know, here you are with the Princess of Norway, and we're doing this together, and royal family is actually a part of this whole process. Do you agree that that's what's ultimately happening? We're merging dimensions in a sense.
Absolutely. I think the first thing we're going through right now, because this is the age of narcissism, so this is the time right now where people are actually looking and seeing, like, does it really make me an important person if I buy those Louis Vuittons? Is people going to love me more if I have more likes on my Instagram? You know, is it like, am I really someone who's cool because I'm wearing a Gucci bag and I'm letting everyone know that it's Gucci? Like, we're coming out of this very narcissistic way of approaching ourselves from both a physical and spiritual dimensionality of thought, consciousness, and seeing in human nature. So a lot of human beings, if you see a lot of commercials now, advertisers are using spiritual ways to get people to buy cars, like the BMW. Not only does it make you feel like you're meditating on the mountains, but it also gives you a feeling of tranquility, stress-free riding. You know, I mean, give me a break, you know. It's like, you know, so but it's working on people because of the fact that, again, people want to be more involved in that spiritual place of evolution, which is to create less. Like I always say, the key to a good life is subtraction, not addition, right? So the more we subtract and make our lives more simplified, the more joy, more happiness we're going to have. The more we add on, the more challenging it becomes, because we have to juggle all of these different components and pieces instead of creating something that actually supports the whole. And that can only happen when you invite tribe, when you invite community. So it's not all about me. So when people talk about my book, I don't say it's my book, I say it's our book. When someone says, "Oh, Shaman Durek, I'm really appreciative that you're doing all these things and you're like on television on London on the #1 TV show showing people how to use powers, and the host is coughing and shaking and all this stuff is happening. It's crazy." And like, I'm like, okay, but I'm not doing it for me. This isn't the me game. This is the we experience. And
it's not the me go, it's the we go.
Huh?
It's not the me go, exactly. It's the we go.
It's the we go. So every accomplishment and every triumph that I make is not for me, it's for all of us. So that we are able to feel safe in a world where we can express ourselves without the fears of labels, conditions, and ideas. That's even why I restructured the whole sexuality thing. And people like try to figure out what I am sexually. I say I'm soul sexual. And the moment that I started doing soul sexual, which I've been creating this soul sexual movement, I've been getting all these people coming from all over the world saying like, I'm soul sexual too. That's how I need to see myself, not as straight or gay or bi or trans or this. Or the lettering, I forget the alphabet. The alphabet is crazy. I just don't understand it, And it's like,
can't keep up with it.
But it's another
so many.
Yeah, but it's another way that the Matrix uses. The Matrix uses black, white, this thing to create a branding advertisement to feed itself, feed this box, to put you in a box and then advertise to you in that box. And that way it creates a branding. So, my whole thing is that what you were just talking about is that we are merging. And like me being a part of the royal family, for instance, is really great because I'm actually sitting in front of the king and the queen and demonstrating these abilities. And they're going like, whoa, and then I meeting with the other parts of the royal family from like England and whatever and all this stuff. And so it's helping create that. So being in that royal family is me giving access to all the royal families and then giving access to the people. And then my girlfriend, because we're not pretentious on any level. I mean, we don't need to be like wearing Rolex watches and wearing and going and doing all of these very extravagant things. She's the first woman who took away her title, Her Royal Highness, because she told me she didn't want to be higher. She didn't like the idea of the highness. Like she's higher than other people. No, we're in this thing together. Right. This is tribe. This is community, and that's why I fell in love with this woman. I fell in love with her because she understands my nature. I'm a twin spirit. I have a woman in me. I have a man in me, and we're very 50-50. So I have, she gets all of who I am. And so therefore there's no separation with our ability to make it about the people and focus on people and be able to know that everything we're doing is not so that we can sit back and be like, oh my God, it's about merging our worlds. It's about how do we merge the worlds together, like with all the hate and the stuff that's been coming from the press, from people making comments about race and this, it just shows me where the world is at and what beautiful love we need to instill in this world, what beautiful, wonderful gems and diamonds and beautiful energies we need to bring into this world on a constant, everlasting, unconditional level, so that we can lift ourselves out of that quagmire of nonsense and degradation and separation and divisiveness and race and this and gay versus straight and woman versus man and black versus white and all the very systematic symptom cases, and focus on the real core, which is how do we develop our species to be able to not kill its own self and destroy its own resources so that we can connect with other ETs who are now willing to actually interact with us because we're not volatile and causing and throwing nuclear weapons at them because we're afraid of that they have more technology than we do.
Yes. And so it's such an exciting prospect, right? And this what you're talking about is really like, how do we turn our gaze towards integration, less disintegration? These boxes, let's break down. Anytime anyone's ever tried to put me in a box my whole life, I'm just like, I just revolt, it's like, no. Yes, maybe I do this thing sometimes and I like this, but don't try and partition me in some way. And that's one of the things that I really have revolted to my whole life when that happens. And I think, just taking down all these barriers and all these labels, and we're under no obligation to be or who we were or do what we did 5 minutes ago, much less 5 years ago. And yet we're defining people over these long periods of time. And it's madness, really. And it's limiting so many people. And I love the fact that, I'm actually curious to hear more about this idea of being soul sexual. I'm someone myself who for a long time is like the traditional monogamous relationship structure. Although I have no problem with anyone who's choosing that for themselves, I'm a big proponent of what like Christopher Ryan, I don't know if you're familiar with his work. He wrote Sex at Dawn. He basically saying, look, we've only been choosing these monogamous pair bonds for like 5,000 years out of hundreds of thousands of years or whatever it's been of modern man's existence. This is not really in flow with even our closest relatives, the bonobos and chimps. They don't live that way, and we're more like them than African and Indian elephants are like each other. We're almost identical. It's like, let's look at nature here. And so there's so much shame that's happened around sexuality, and I've got to fit into this box of what the culture has told me it's supposed to be like. And then how many marriages have been ruined because someone had feelings for someone else, and based off of the system, that means they never loved them to begin with. And it's like, people are devastated and families are broken and all these things. So that was a long-winded spiel I just gave there, but I'm curious to hear more about, soul sexual and what that means to you.
Absolutely. And you know what? It was a much needed long-winded spill. So I think that was wonderful and beautiful. And you're absolutely right. Religion has been pushing the narrative of these very control-based ideas that God, as Santa Claus, punishing the bad and rewarding the good, has created such a definition of disgrace within humanity, of shame and guilt and blame and attack and violence. And not only that, but if you think about it, we have come to a planet where we are not operating from the field of coming to Earth with the understanding of we're loved no matter what. We come to Earth with the understanding of we're loved and you're loved unless. So the idea of you're loved unless, and the unless aspect is unless you go to school like I want you, follow what I want you to do what I want you to do, listen to what I want you to do, all whatever it is that your family structure decided to believe was the morality in your home. Again, different to each other person's homes. It's the conditions that were created based on their belief systems that were formulated as raising tools to give you instruction on how to navigate yourself on this planet and in your life. A lot of the teachings and information could be distorted. And a lot of the things that the system uses to distort that information is by putting us into selective categories. These selective categories then define behaviors that everyone who chooses to agree to that selective category must follow and adhere and live by. And every time you live outside of it, you think something horrible is going to happen. Are you not going to be loved? Are you going to be outcast? Are you going to be considered the black sheep? And, and the thing is, what it comes down to is systematic control. If you can put people into selective degrees of boxes and then you are able to divide them, these people will never be able to rise out of the suffering and the pain that they are going through, the hardship, the love, whatever it may be that's collectively happening on the planet. They'll never be able to rise out of it because all you simply have to do is keep creating them to be focused on the divide and on the differences that they can't understand. And you keep them in separation of their real knowledge of them being brothers and sisters. And if they come together and share ideas and share beliefs without trying to say one is right over the other, you're able to create a powerful source of species on this planet that is able to transcend even that which we think we have transcended to this date. That's a scary thing for the system of those who are running the system that want to stay, living luxurious lives off the backs of people. That doesn't seem so appeasing and appealing as a way to do so. So they use fear and victimness as a self-motivation tool. And so so what they did was they turned the narrative of Jesus Christ into being the biggest victim through our eyes being a savior, but to create us to be a victim. So the idea of putting a man on a cross and dirty underwears with a reef on his head, bleeding from his head, is the only example that human beings could use for their advertising stunt to make everyone feel shame and blame and guilt and feel bad that this man went through all this suffering and pain because of our sin. So therefore now you couldn't put a picture of him with his arms open, embracing love and tranquility and change and all these things. Every single interpretation of everything always has to be a victim. So now you have people on the planet pining for who's the biggest victim award. So everyone is constantly looking for something to victimize them. So they're looking for something to victimize them. So who's the next monster that we can call out? What's the next demon we can say is attacking us? What's the next dark thing that we can say is hurting us? So that we can play victim, and then we get love and we get acknowledgement. And if you go to movie theaters, it's always about the underdog rising up. It's always about the damsel in distress being saved by a man. So women have lost their power to choose men selectively based upon their own individual self that would best support them in their evolution. And men have gotten to a place where they can't access their emotional self because it's considered to be weak. So they operate in this very patriotic way of looking at life and operating through life. And so they feel like they have to be this, 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 and the other in order to be considered a real man or to be a man. And so now you have the labels, and now you have the labels of color. Now you have all of these things, and it's all set up to keep us in a complete state of chaos from ever finding the center nucleus of love, unconditional, that we should have been given the day we arrived to Earth to heal all imbalance. This is something that's very important for us to. That's what my book is all about. Everything I just said to you is exactly what my book is about. And so being soul sexual is for me because I am attracted to men, and I am attracted to women, and I am attracted to life and to energy and to spirits and to a lot of things. And it's all connected to I'm not attracted to every man. I don't think, I want to lay down and be sexual with every man that I see. And I don't look at every woman and think I want to be sexual with every woman that I see. I look at the soul. I look at the connection of the soul, the grace, the beauty. I believe in conscious copulation. I believe in connection in that level. So when my girlfriend met me, she saw that and was like, I love you. You're amazing. You're so in touch with your feminine. You're so in touch with your masculine. It's so wonderful having a boyfriend like you because I could say to her, my God, that guy is super hot. Look at him. And she looks at him. She's like, he's totally hot, and we laugh about it. And we don't have these things like, oh my God, if we wanted to invite someone into our bed, like, okay, if they're conscious and we feel a connection to both of them, why not? Or it's like, we don't have these rules, even though, we are building our lives and we have a family and everything. And we got to keep it, out of the public eye from the sense of being a part of the royal family and all that until we gradually give them bits and pieces of crumbs to eat so they can get to the big piece of big piece of bread that we're going to feed them about what our life is really like. Yeah, but we don't hide it like in public. We're not walking around pretending, we're very open about it, and we're very open in the nature of our being about it. And I'm a soul sexual person. She's a soul sexual person. We operate in a soul sexual way in how we connect with people. So when I hug a man, I'm not hugging him and patting his back like I'm doing a colloquial tap and we're about to go sit down at a table and talk about how we're going to conquer a country. I'm actually hugging him and giving him love and whispering blessings in my thoughts to him about how I want more prosperity for him and more joy, more happiness, more pleasure, more bliss. When I touch my friends, I got my buddies who are like super macho and they're like, dude, when I'm around you, I can be naked. I feel comfortable. I feel loved because I love people unconditionally. I'm not putting you in a box in a category and trying to like size you up and figure you out so I can feel safe. If I don't feel safe because you're doing something different that I don't understand, then I need to look at where I'm not being safe within myself. Where do I feel threatened because I'm not clear with who I am? I don't need to change you. I have to change myself to be more secure with who I am. When I have friends who say, I'm straight, I would never want to be around gay people or blah, 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 blah. I say to them, well, then you're not secure within yourself, because if you were secure within yourself, you wouldn't first label yourself. Secondly, you wouldn't try to put some kind of a standard or idea about what you feel around certain types of people. You would learn how to be fluid and flow with every type of person and give them space to adapt and with your adaptation and be comfortable with that adaptation like the cells in the body do. But you don't know how to have autonomy, spiritual autonomy. You know, all you know is that anytime something's different from you, you see it as a threat to yourself because you're already scared of your own self. And that's the real issue. It has nothing to do with that person. And then they go, holy shit, you were right, dude. Yeah, they're like, I'm getting rid of that label. I'm not straight. I'm soul sexual. I'm like, good. I'm glad you came to a realization that you're a human, that you're a soul, and that this body is just a costume that you're wearing. It's your biological spacesuit, dude. If you go into outer space, they have like 5 spacesuits in the back that you can open the cargo bay doors and go out of. So this is one of your spacesuits that you chose to get off the spaceship and into this dimension, and you're now in this spacesuit. But this isn't who you are. So stop staking claim into it and killing people and getting angry and hurt and whatever people are choosing to do these days with their labels and their tags. Tag this and tag hashtag this and hashtag that.
Right. Yeah, it's a great way to really frame it. Like, you are this expansive, infinite being who is, sojourning for a brief period of time into this particular timeline and physical dimension on this particular little speck of a planet in the infinite cosmos, and you chose this particular suit. And you're going to then identify everything about you. It's like, in relation to the suit. It's like it's a crazy concept when you think about it in that way. It's like me, based off what I wear for clothes today, deciding everything that I do somehow relates to that, when really it's so secondary to what my day is about, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. As the Lakota elder once said to me, we were doing a Temazcal, and he was saying to some of the other people, and he was looking at me, and he said, right, Shaman Durek? He said, I am not who I am here, but I am the moon that shines upon you, and I am the leaf from the tree. I am the woman who is crying over the loss of her child. I am the ocean that meets the shore. And I said, exactly. That's the first thing we learn in shamanism, is that we are an energy source that can take on many shapes. And so like tomorrow, I may be a person who's like laughing and being giddy and skipping down the street. And the next day I may be serious and like very focused. And the next day I may be completely quirky and going like, out of nowhere. And
I do that.
Like, what the hell is that? It's like, whatever it is. Maybe one day someone gives me a hug, and instead of like going, oh, honey, I love you, I'm like, ow! Because I get to define myself. I get to decide what day. If tomorrow I want to be a jaguar, and the next day I want to be a wolf, and the next day I want to be an eagle, and maybe I just want to be a little bit of a little child who's just, sitting there and coloring in its coloring book, and I'm happy with that. This is what spirit, what source, what God, however people want to interpret it, has intended for us to be interchangeable. We are able to be changed into any form we suit to seek, meaning that we are not of a form. We are formless that can take on anything and be anything. And then we understand what creation is and how it operates omnipresent and omnipotent and omniscient, because we're living in all energies. The first thing we learn in shamanism when we're kids is they teach us about awareness and how to stay in that awareness. Most people, one of my friends who was here last night, he was saying to me, you mean awareness, like centering yourself and focusing yourself in the now? I said, well, first of all, the now's bullshit. That whole Eckhart Tolle thing is a bunch of crap. It's not real. Because
really? Okay. I want to hear that.
Yeah, because to invoke a now is actually you creating a bubble outside of a quantum field. So you are literally going now, because in shamanism, everything is in flux. The ocean is in flux. Nature's in flux. Your blood's in flux. The wind is in flux. Your words are in flux. Everything is moving. The moment something stops moving, it cannot succeed its energy and consciousness upon another consciousness, then everything ceases to exist. Because existence only happens when consciousness is directed upon it. And what is consciousness directed upon it? Creation, source. Source is always aware of itself, in and of itself. And therefore, that's why it continues to remain. And so the idea of something being put into a now bubble, there's no such thing as a now. What I just said to you became the past, and that past is now creating my next experience, how I feel, what I'm thinking, and what I'm doing. So what happens is when people in shamanism, one of the things my friend was saying last night, he was like, oh, so like when you meditate, do you go to like a quiet place? I go, no, I practice my meditations in any kind of disruption, any way, because it builds. One, it allows me to merge with the sound of the fire engine. It allows me to merge with the woman laughing outside. It allows me to be a part of her laugh, to be her laugh. I'm the spirit of her laugh. I'm the spirit of that fire engine sound. I'm the spirit in all of these things. And that gives me quantum awareness of all of myself in many different forms. By me putting myself in it now, I stop the flux and I'm going into a little bubble and I'm going now, which means I'm not a part of the flux anymore, which means I can't perceive the awareness that is happening in my ability to be a creator.
Wow.
That creates
so,
a schism in human consciousness.
You know what's great about this is like literally the episode that is released before this one is an amazing soul, Corey Allen. He does a podcast called Astral Hustle, and he's just releasing a book called Now is the Way. And I love the fact that this episode is coming on the back of that one. And, you know, the way I perceive it, and he's a wonderful individual, and even seeing Eckhart Tolle's book, I think there's a lot of value there when I read it, but I hear and feel what you're saying. It's like, it's moving. Source is it's like a current. It's like a you're saying basically like if the river becomes stagnant, then disease happens and bugs and things that, you know, all of a sudden it becomes an unhealthy waterway. If it's flowing, you know, then it continues to thrive and find balance and everything like that. So I think that's a very fascinating and interesting nuance. Right. It's
like a perfect example. Like when I make love to my girlfriend, we do sex magic, you know? So while we're making love, or if I'm masturbating, or if I'm doing anything that's sexual, we're literally in the flux. The flux of that energy is what creates the next experience. So that energy then can create an opportunity. It can create the healing center or anything that we want to manifest. But when I go into a now, I'm playing a game with my consciousness. I'm going now, and my spirit is going, but there's no such thing as a now. So you want me to create a now when everything's in flux? Okay, so let's put you in a bubble. And in that moment, you go in that bubble, everything, you're not a part of anything anymore. You're not a part of the flux anymore. You're creating your own little insulated bubble of now. So you can keep saying now, maybe be present now, and maybe be present now. If you don't know how to be present in the flux, then you're always going to be a person who's affected by the world. You're not going to have spiritual immunity. You're not going to know when something's coming out, when something crazy happens, like all of a sudden people have this entitlement that they think that their city's always going to be their city. Their Whole Foods always going to carry almond milk. They always believe that everything is always going to be the same because they're entitled. You know, and the thing is, I have a chapter in my book called You Entitled Ass. And it's all about the idea of how entitlement is actually affecting our evolution, because the idea is you need to be able to be in flux. You need to be comfortable with the fact that your restaurant that you eat at all the time may be closed down tomorrow, and that the almond milk may not be served anymore on Whole Foods, and maybe Whole Foods might disappear and go away because they lost business, or the fact that your city that you live in might be under siege of another country in war, and what you thought was peaceful and loving all of a sudden now has become a war-torn country, and you have to learn how to adapt to the flux. You don't adapt to the flux by constantly trying to keep yourself away from it. And so you have to learn how to be present in the flux on quantum levels so that you are accessing all different levels of dimensional choices that you could choose from, and be able to see all the tendrils of possibilities that you could create, and learn how to manifest a road when there was no road.
Right. Yeah, I love that. And you know what I think of is when we're sitting down together on Optimistic, you talked about shamanism is really, I recall you talking about or saying that it's really the art of becoming like a little child. And that's really what I think of when you say that. It's like, what does a child do when whatever they're presented with, they just, they're so malleable and like, oh, how do I deal with this? What do I do? How do I find joy here? Oh, here's a cardboard box. That's all that's here. this doctor's office in the corner, great. Let me turn it into a castle. Let me figure out what I do, with the situation and make the most of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And when you see a child, you see a wise being in front of you. You may think that you've had more time on this planet, that you gained the wisdom. No, you gained the matrix programmings. That one who is wise is the one who is most subtracted. The child is most subtracted. The child is more focused on seeing that the lamp is actually a rocket and not a lamp. But you see it's a lamp. So when the child breaks the lamp, you go, oh my God, the child broke my lamp. He's going to get spanked. He's in trouble. And the child's like, why am I getting in trouble? I'm just playing with the rocket. So, but the consciousness of the child is able to see into dimensions that you cannot see, or hear things that you cannot hear, because the awareness is operating in the field of, I don't need to judge anything. I just need to see it and experience it and play with it. That gives you the understanding of shamanism. Shamanism is not about going around defining judgments on things. Shamanism is about how open and free can you be. And in that state of freedom, you gain clarity, wisdom, and understanding, which you can share and pour into your brothers and sisters through joy, happiness, and love, and kindness, generosity, and sensuality and connectedness, which is community and tribe.
Yeah. So such an exciting time that this is actually, becoming, like, for so many people hearing this podcast right now, they're just like, yes. Thousands and thousands of people are coming online. Yes. Oh, wow. This feels, this sounds true. This feels true in every cell of my being. And I'm curious, as a seer of sorts, what you foresee in the near future or far future with, this awakening that's happening. I mean, do you 20 years from now think it's like, Shaman Durek, who maybe to someone listening now is like, wow, this is somewhat of an anomaly in some ways, some of the things that they're talking about or perceiving or the way they're living their life and experiencing. Now, all of a sudden, 20 years from now, it's like, oh yeah, I mean, my neighbor is just like that and everyone is just like that. What do you foresee?
Well, I do see, I see a lot of events. I see a plague that's going to break out. I see people clustering together to support one another, people living in other people's homes because of human migration. I see human beings, who are getting this information, becoming leaders and stepping up in ways they never thought they would. I see like school teachers becoming like leading people to helping them learn how to, to build their own sustainable, gardens. And I see people really learning how to adapt, because what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years is that right now, we in shamanism, we call this time of the great upheaval. It's the time of the end of the narcissism, going into the great upheaval, where nature and industry clash. And so that's the first part of the blackout. So I talk about this in my book. So the first part of the blackout is like nature and industry class. We began to realize that a lot of the stuff that we built technology-wise was not supporting people or nature. It was actually supporting money, profit, and power. So we start looking at that, and we start seeing, so people are going to start getting angry. The anger is going to build more fire on the planet. So you're going to have more fires, flash fires, things of this nature, because this is what's happening right now. Then people are going to go into a point of sadness and go through these emotions of sadness. So you're getting we're getting that, a little bit of trickle of that. That's why you get a lot of suicides, a lot of things happening right now, people going through a lot of emotional stuff. So you're going to start seeing like nature following suit with everything that we're feeling emotionally. What's also going to happen is that industry is going to start reveling up against people by saying like, you're not strong enough to stop what we want to happen. And then what's going to happen is people are going to get upset about it. And then they're going to start waking up and joining into clusters. And those clusters are going to start waking up like millions of people. And those millions of people are going to stand and be the leaders who are speaking out against these tyrannies and these atrocities that are taking place on the earth. And it's not going to just be like America, Paris, or it's going to be like the world. And then what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to die because of the cataclysmic earthquakes and changes that are going to take place, such as there's going to be places where the desertification is going to be so strong that they can't get food from the earth. The people are going to want to migrate because the air quality is dense, they can't breathe. So they're going to want to migrate to a country. The country is going to go into fear that they don't have enough resources. So they're going to try to pin it to another country. And then we're going to get realize that these borders that we've created are not supporting us because there's all these people dying and no one's doing anything about it. So then those clusters are going to build and they're going to start dealing with that as well. So after all of that starts taking place, which is towards the middle part of the blackout, and we start seeing the major earthquakes and parts of the continent slipping into the sea, we're going to have what are called colonies of people. Colonies of people are going to be like they're going to see that the leaders are not really supporting us. The government is not really supporting us. So people are going to start appointing their own governments, building their own governments within their clusters, and appointing representatives to meet with other clusters to create a cohesive network of communication that's going to help people to start rebuilding colonies that support living a good life on Earth. And what's going to happen is by that time, that's when we move into the golden age. We're going to come out of the blackout period. And then that's when new life, new worlds, the new world is going to come about. That's when new technologies are going to be created, not for profit and gain. It's going to be created to support our species for survival. The way we eat food, the way we use our resources, the amount of resource we actually take, the amount of children we actually create is not going to be about needing to spread my DNA. It's going to be like, do we need to create more children? Nature is going to change women's bodies and it's already starting where they're not going to be able to get pregnant, and they're going to try to go to science, which they're already doing, and then that's not going to work. And it's because nature is changing the molecules in our body. We're going through a metamorphosis inside of our beings. People, the way relationships are, everything is going to change, and a new world structure is going to come about, but it's not going to be run by government. It's going to be run by representatives who are looking for the well-being of people and creating sustainability and life. And that's going to be the golden era that Nostradamus spoke about, and that a lot of shaman elders speak about, and a lot of mysticism speaks about, and a lot of religion speaks about. That's going to be formated. So that's what I see. So it's going to be quite an experience. That's why I wrote this book, because spirit hacking is not just a book about how to learn your shamanic skills. It's how to navigate through this great upheaval and how to get yourself into leadership and power so that we can forward the giant age, which what Nostradamus calls and a lot of other mystics and seers call the golden age, or the Druids, call the time of reckoning, is when we actually realize that the planet Earth is going to sustain itself just fine. It's we who needs to learn how to adapt to each other in a way that we can be able to still live on Earth. And that's going to happen after a lot of those clusters get built and colonies get built. Celebrities aren't going to be what you see them to be today. It's not going to be like, oh my God, this person walks the red carpet and wearing dresses, because no one's going to care about that anymore because of what's going to be happening on so many different levels. That's going to be, so my book is helping people to buffer that so they don't have to be reactive, so they can see themselves as leaders. That's why, the whole reason why I wrote this book was to give people, like that's always the time sensitive with my publishers. They were like, we got to get this book out, because when I sent it out to all these different people for publishing houses, like Hay House and all that, and Hay House was like, oh my God, this is too dark. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But all these other people that were like, all fucking like Love and Light. There's actually a chapter in my book called Love and Light My Ass. But it's like basically... so basically like my publisher, Macmillan, who's like a very conservative publishing house that only deals with very like factual, like their first spiritual book they ever did was about the Pope. So they're very like, that kind of thing. And they had people there, they were like, we need your book. We want your book.
Wow.
This is time sensitive because this book is going to help the world. And this book isn't just launching in America. It launches in Germany bought it, Spain bought it, England bought it, Africa bought it, Australia, New Zealand bought it, Norway, Denmark bought it. It's now being sold in Turkey, and it's now being sold in Ireland, and Japan and Asian countries are now looking into it. So this book is launching worldwide. And this book isn't about me. This book is for all of us. This is a tome to really for us to go, I just want to look. It's like all I'm basically saying is like, look, you don't have to believe anything I'm saying in this book. It's your choice. You don't have to believe in spirits. You don't have to believe in your power. You don't have to believe that these negative voices in your head are actually disembodied spirits who are sharing their story with you. You don't have to believe in any of it. I don't really care if that's your choice. It's your life. It's your free will. Do as you please. But I am here for the time that I have breath in my lungs and life in my body. I'm going to speak the truth to the face of adversity, like Martin Luther King did, like all of these great leaders did. I will stand on the front line. If I get killed for it, oh well, I died for the people. If this book, touches the life of people to recognize themselves as leader, fantastic. I'm here just to lay the buffet out in front of everyone and say, eat, because things are coming and we need to be ready. The Matrix is smart and we need to get smarter. And that's what this book is about, is teaching you how to navigate the Matrix. And truly, my friends call me Morpheus, but truly I believe, because I'm the person who, I'm not a scared shaman. I lived in Turkey and was at the border of ISIS when ISIS was, going, killing people in Gaziantep and going on the borders of Syria. I've been in Israel when the Great War took place with the Palestinians. I was there supporting the people, watching bombs go off in front of me, getting close to getting blown up. I'm the person who stands on the front line. I was there when the great earthquakes took place in Turkey. I was there when the coup took place in Turkey. I was there in Iceland when people were committing suicide because they couldn't tolerate the fact that there was enough sun. I was there. So for me, it's not about being this powerful shaman who's walking around glorifying myself. No, it's about being of service and where I'm most needed in the world. And right now, where I'm most needed is getting this book into the hands of as many people so that they can see the lit leaders that they've come here to bring legacy. And I need everyone ready on the front line with me for what is coming on this planet. The pharmaceutical industries, the meat industries, the drilling industries, they are pissed off and they are about to create some crazy shit on our planet. And we all need to be ready, geared up, holding hands and marching with our hearts across the field of adversity and bring home the darkness into the light. And that's what this book is about. And that's what I stand for.
Woo! Inspiration in spirit, man. You are doing it. And you are such a powerful, heart-centered visionary. And, hearing you talk about how it's all unfolding, I felt such a strong call to creating community and permanent village infrastructure. And even here at the Mystic Manor where you've been, right? That's my first step into that. And if you go back to episode 2 of this podcast, one of the most magical, synchronistic things that's unfolded in my life is being told, supposedly from a time traveler, it was one of the wildest things that's ever happened to me, about me being really, really involved with creating these new communities in the future and playing this big role in helping to facilitate those. And so it's something that I've really felt is coming myself and felt a call to be a part of. And I even had a listener the other day message me and say, hey, I was in surgery and I had this crazy lucid vision. And I was shown, different connections to star systems, and they showed me you are connected. You need to check out Aldebaran. And I'd never even heard of it. And I looked it up, and it was all about, this is just like yesterday, all about creating these new communities and these new sustainable ways of living that are necessary for us to really survive and thrive as a species. And so hearing all that from you right now is just like, of course, it's divinely timed and so in sync and in line with what I feel so called to play my part in helping to, how do we reinvent and reformat the way we're doing things and create communities that really, really support the growth of future generations.
Exactly. And from a playful, loving, nurturing, kind, joyous place. We don't have to be so heavy, but we do have to be open-minded and mindful of what is coming and not act like we're thinking that, because the thing that I always hear, my love, is, from my religious friends, I was like, oh, Jesus is going to save us. Those things aren't even going to affect us. Or people will say, the government's got to figure it out. Don't worry. I don't need to worry about those things.
Yeah.
No, they're not. No Superman is coming to save you. No Jesus is coming to save you. You have all the powers that Superman has inside, and you have all the powers that Jesus has inside. You have all the powers that Muhammad had. You have all the powers that Buddha had. You have all the powers that Krishna had. You have all the powers that Shiva has. You have all the powers that Lakshmi has. You have all the powers that everyone has inside of you to create change, and it happens with you, and that's how.
Yes. Well, it is happening with you, my friend. You are such an inspiration. I so have enjoyed every moment of this connection. As always, I'm already looking forward to the next time we get to mix it up and share time and space. What is the best way, Durek, for people to connect with you and how to find the book and all those things?
So you can find the book at pretty much any bookstore. You can pre-order, which is what we need right now. The most of right now is pre-orders, because we definitely want to be able to get more of the knowledge of people getting the book, so that New York Times bestseller list, we make that list so that people say this is the book that people say, oh my God, we need this book. Even though it's launching everywhere, it's important. If you pre-order this book, it's really supporting us and supporting the call right now. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes & Noble. You can get it pretty much anywhere right now. And it comes out October 15th. You can also go to my Instagram at Shaman Durek. Follow. I do a lot of lives. I bring a lot of tribal members on, which is and when I say tribal members, I mean you come on the live, talk about the things you're into, talk about the things that you want to educate us on. That happens on my Instagram. You can also follow me at shamandurek.com. Go there and find out. You go to my shaman school, learn shamanic skills. There's a lot of great things that I want to bring to everyone in the world. And this is the most important thing. And so get on my newsletter, find out where I'm going to be in your town, come take classes, learn how to do some crazy, amazing things that are Jedi worthy and just amazing. And just be the leader that you are. And just remember every day that we need you, or you want to be here, and you're here for a reason. I love you. Even though I haven't met you, I already know you, because we were all in the light at one time, all having fun and being kids. And I remember all and each and every one of you. And I love you. And I'm so happy that I have a beautiful brother, Brandon, that I get to be here and and share love with you and today's share on this podcast. And just, I'm overjoyed, and I thank you. And I'm so honored. Thank you for being such a beautiful person. And I'm always there for you if you need me. I love you, darling.
Oh, I love you so much. You warm my heart, and I know you warm everyone's heart, and you are just such a shining example. You're the real deal, my friend, and I just applaud you. And I look forward to the next time we get to connect. And I do have one last question for you, and I'm sure I asked it to you last time. I like to always conclude, and I'm curious if your answer will change. And it's my very cliche question. In 60 seconds or less, what is the meaning of life according to Shaman Durek?
To bring home our brothers and sisters from the darkness, and to transcend love throughout the universe through amplifying it through our connections, our relations, and our tribe.
And you are doing that, and doing it well. Thank you, Durek. Love you so, so much. Till next time, everyone, journey well. And if you're feeling the call to come for a week retreat style Mystic Manor immersion, remember to go now and book your time to speak with me directly about stepping into the optimistic vortex at calendly.com/talk with Brandon while there are still spots left. Otherwise, I look forward to co-creating magic with you at the Mystic Manor.